Yo, 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 what is going on, everybody? Gabriel Santos here. Long time no see. Long time no see. Um, we're nearing 4,000 subscribers, so for those of you who are new, I really appreciate you being here. For those of you who have been here, appreciate you as always. So, apologies for the month-long delay between videos. I've been going through a lot of stuff. Kind of some crossroads stuff. Um, and long story short, I've reached a couple goals in my life over the last couple years, and um, with that, I found myself getting not necessarily bored, but no longer motivated, not as motivated. And the last couple months has been about me taking time to just kind of reflect and ask myself what this is about, and figuring out what new direction I want to head toward. And without getting too wordy and mouthy about it, I've just been taking time to myself, and it hasn't really been like a 5-star vacation or anything like that. In fact, there's been a lot of inner conflict. There's been a lot of turmoil. There's even been like a little bit of depression, not suicide-based depression, but the kind of depression that comes from lacking a purpose, and things not really being aligned in this area or that area. And then all of that was happening already, and then just last week my cousin passed away from a heart attack. And so I don't want to talk about that much today, but just going through a lot of stuff. And so I apologize for the lack of videos. Making videos and the lack of content crosses my mind basically every day, and so I apologize for that. But with that, something I want to remind myself of, and remind the audience as well, is that I'm just a guy. Like, I know I have this YouTube channel. I know that I have a sense of mastery over certain things, but and I'm a professionally trained and practiced life coach. But at the end of the day, like, I'm just another person, just like you, and so I go through very similar things as you, human things. And so I just want to remind both of us of that I'm not like, you know, I'm just trying the best I can like everyone else. And so with that, I want to share some personal stuff, and hopefully you get something along the way. But I just kind of want to be a little more vulnerable today. Kind of take it back to what my videos used to be like. Like, it was a lot more about me just kind of like, I feel like I was just a lot more vulnerable in the beginning. And anyways, so to kind of get straight to it, I found myself binging on marijuana for the last couple weeks, and I haven't binged like this in about a year, and it has all of the similar qualities of binging. It's like, it was like the first thing I did when I woke up. I did it periodically throughout the day, and along with that, it was fast food, it was mindless entertainment. And I think the first thing I want to get out the way is, it was not so much about weed binging. It was more so about like avoidance binging, and even underneath all that, the binging is kind of like a symptom but not the cause. And I would say the cause is me having a lot of internal conflict, and a lot of unaddressed thoughts or unaddressed situations in my life that I didn't really know how to get clarity on, as no matter what I did, so to speak. And um, I kind of fell into the day to day of just like, coach the couple clients I have, make a video, and then be done. And in a sense, like, it just happened, right? And so I binged, and on the one hand, it was quote unquote great, not great like it was a party, but it was therapeutic. It served its purpose, and if anything, what helped me a lot while I was binging and coping and all that was I didn't give myself too much shit for it. Right? I was aware that I was coping. I was aware that I was not doing well internally. And I also took responsibility for the fact that I was gonna, binge on certain things to just kind of get through the day. And you can almost argue that it's the strategy that I chose, but it's a low conscious strategy, and to be honest, I was okay with it. I was okay with it. And maybe one thing I want to share is that obviously we don't want to engage in unhealthy binging for a long period of time. But sometimes it's like the best you got. And if that's the case, if your life takes you, if you take yourself to a point where, escaping through video games or fast food or porn or weed or alcohol is kind of like where you're at, and you're gonna do it, then at the very least take ownership of a couple things. One is that you're not doing so well, and B is that you're choosing to cope with those things. And ultimately, three, to know that like this is a very temporary solution, if you can call it that. And that at some point it's got to end, and you got to move on and deal with what needs to be dealt with. And so, for me, and one more thing with that, like, because I feel like what happens sometimes is we don't know how to deal with our lives and our situations. We want to cope in some way because that's just how it is. But then you turn towards something to cope with, and you don't even give yourself the space to cope. And so you judge yourself while you're coping. You want to move forward, but part of you's like not ready or willing to move forward yet. And so then you almost like interrupt the coping process and force yourself out of it, but you're not ready or wanting to be out of it. So then you go back to coping, and then you make yourself wrong for coping because somewhere it's like, I shouldn't cope, I should move on. And I get that whole world. Long story short, I could feel it coming to an end. I could feel the last couple of days, I felt it coming to an end. I felt myself like, it's like, how much longer can I really prolong this? Like, it gets to a point where, like, almost like I've dried up my coping resources. Like, how much longer can I just distract myself with YouTube and smoke a bowl and sleep in? Like, how much longer can I do this? And the reality is I could do much longer, but it's like, it gets to a point where coping with YouTube or weed or what have you becomes like ineffective. It's like, okay, the coping, the secondhand coping is no longer working. It seems like I'm at the point where to really feel better, I gotta actually do something, I gotta actually address the things that need addressing. And so that's where I'm at now. And so if anything, I think what I want to share with this video is that, A, you're a human being, I'm a human being. B, sometimes we're going to go through periods of conflict and turmoil and hardship and not knowing what to do. And then C, I don't know if I'm going in ABC order, but C, it's like, take ownership of what you're doing to cope and just be aware of its practicality. Again, I gotta harp this one. Like at the very least, like if you're, and I'm not saying you should, right? But if you are going to cope, go on a bender, blah blah blah, like just take ownership of it, and that's completely okay. Taking ownership of it is better than like, giving into the story of like, I don't know why I'm coping, I don't know why I'm binging, I don't know why I don't know why I do this. My suggestion is to take on some type of perspective, like I'm emotionally going through something and I can't quite process it, or I'm not processing it, and my way of processing it right now is avoiding it, or emotionally eating, or emotionally smoking, or whatever. At the very least, with that, you can give yourself the space to go through it, and then also have in the back of your mind, like, when I'm ready and I have the strength and the just the will to move on, I will. You will. And so, yeah. So yeah, it's really interesting. Like, there's power in being. There's power in actually wanting the decision that you're making, right? In this case, like, I only really put the binging down when I was like done with it, when I no longer wanted it, right? And mind you, I have developed some emotional coping skills, healthier ones, so luckily I have those to go to now, now that I'm done with like the toxic coping, if you will. I'm equipped to move on. And not only that, like I've mastered enough of my own relationship with weed that I, can put it down very easily when I want to and when I'm ready to. And that said, like I'm not proud at all about the fact that I binged on weed, especially. But I think part of the name of the game, especially if you're looking for an alternative way to like get over weed addiction and dependency and all that, it's like you're a human being and you're going to make choices sometimes that aren't great, and you don't need to you don't need to be overly harsh about it. I think just continue to take ownership of it, and move on, move on. And so hopefully this was a powerful message to some of you. I've been avoiding making a video for so long, specifically this video, because I don't want to admit to anyone, especially on this channel, that I went through a binging weed experience, because much of this channel is about me telling you how to not do that. But I think there's power in being vulnerable and sharing, like, sometimes this happens, and that's okay. Like, that's okay. And so maybe a lasting message at the end of this is to consider that probably what most of us want is like a sense of health, a sense of being happy with the way that you live, and just not partaking in activities or actions that you just don't feel good about, And so as that pertains to marijuana, it's like none of us, I don't think any of us really want to have a addicted or dependent relationship to it. I know for sure none of us want to like ignore and avoid our lives and just like smoke weed to get through the day. I know that for sure. Um, and so, um, yeah, you know. Um, one more thing. So we talk about cravings, right? Like one of the tough things that people go through is when they stop or take a break, there's cravings. And I feel like something to reflect upon is like the intensity of the cravings decrease when you're so clear that you don't want to be smoking. And I think what's tough is that when you've spent years and years of smoking and you don't have alternative strategies to cope with emotions or create the emotions you want, it's easy for marijuana to come up in our minds as a solution, right? Because if you smoked every day for years and you don't have recent memory on like, how do I be happy in a day? Because for example, for me, it's like, I put down the binging and I'm so clear on what I'm clear on what strategies to use to have a day, instead of coping and binging. It's like, okay, I'll have my meal replacement shake in the morning. I'll drink my water. I'll attend to my chores and errands. I'll attend to my job or whatever. And that's what brings a sense of fulfillment and satisfaction to my day. Whereas if you cut weed out after years of smoking it and you're just kind of left there sitting in your day and you don't even know how to have a day because your day is heavily revolved around your ability to use marijuana freely. And so I don't know, that's kind of blabber at the end, but anyways, this video is running pretty long. I think many of you are used to that by now, but hopefully this video gave you a sense of relatability as well as a sense of relief. Like, okay, like Gabe goes through this, and even though he's mastered, marijuana and addiction and dependency to a large degree, like like every human being is prone to like emotional turmoil, and every human being is prone to coping in ways that aren't quite healthy, and so but like I said all throughout this video, just take ownership of this process. Like, just acknowledge that something within you is like not really sitting well with you and you don't know how to deal with that. And if coping is kind of the best you got, then it's the best you got. It's not the best there is, but it's the best you got. And just acknowledge that it's what you're going to do for now until you can find the strength or the inspiration to change it. And just acknowledge that it's a very temporary solution, but it's not a real one. And then see if maybe letting the binge coping, see if letting it play itself out works. And what I mean by that is like, not to just let it go on and on forever, but again, it's kind of like when you're sad, you cry, and when you're done crying, you're done being sad, you can move on. So it's like, if you're not going to move forward and do something different, might as well just give yourself the space to cope how you're coping and take ownership of the consequences that come with that method. And then see if maybe there comes a time when you're like, okay, like now I'm sick of coping through binging. And then move on. So that's it. Video went way too long. I'm just going to post it because I'm tired of like delaying this process. But anyways, appreciate you all. Love you all. Thanks for sticking by, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.